Carlos Manzo, better known as the Mexican Bukele for his fight against organized crime, was eliminated. Unfortunately, he is now resting in peace. This man was nicknamed the Mexican Bukele because he was one of the few people in Mexico with the guts to take on criminals face to face. The problem is that the Mexican government left him completely alone. He spent a long time asking for help, asking for support, and they ignored him. Let's watch one of his messages. Pay attention.
President of Mexico so that they send the support that is due. The federal government is responsible for these matters. We will gladly continue to provide support. But the ones who are exposed, the ones who are facing the situation are our municipal police. It's this government. We are all exposed, including my own life as the municipal president. And I am not willing to give in, nor am I willing to give up the little or much security that is within our reach as a municipality.
They never listened to him, they left him completely alone, and today he lost his life. Here, the Security Cabinet of Mexico tells us, due to this afternoon's events in downtown Uruapan, Michoacan, where Municipal President Carlos Manzo tragically died, 2 suspects were arrested and 1 also lost their life. The authorities of the government of Michoacan and the Security Cabinet are securing the area and maintaining patrols to ensure the safety of the population. This crime will not go unpunished. This is what the government of Mexico says, but readers added context. They added a community note where they say, the late mayor of Uruapan, Carlos Manzo, had previously requested support and security from federal authorities who ignored his request. Today, he was the victim of something terrible that took his life, precisely what he feared and what the federal government neglected. In fact, he replied to that post from the government of Mexico with a phrase from Bukele. A government that does not fight crime is because it is complicit. Nayib Bukele. And here they comment, Carlos Manzo was indeed fighting crime. Very true.
He opposed his country's president and today he was killed. Carlos Manzo, mayor of Uruapan, Michoacan, recently gained attention in Mexico and internationally for claiming it was possible to fight crime. He repeatedly said that he feared for his life. He asked the state and federal government for help to fight crime that was out of control. Many people anticipated it on social media, telling him that the government would leave him alone. Everything seems to indicate that this is what happened. Just imagine the power those people have, that they're able to have this person killed even with bodyguards and police around. What this act tells you is that these people feel so secure and so powerful that they know perfectly well there won't be any consequences if they do that. They know everything will just end up in a case file. Rest in peace, Carlos Manzo, whom many Mexicans saw as a potential future president. A man silenced for that reason, because those who truly have the solution to end crime are abandoned by those who have the power to protect them. It's not in their interest for people to wake up and realize change is possible. Hugs instead of bullets empower miracle workers and silence those with the truth. That's why they tried to take out Donald Trump, did you know that? Pay attention to the version that will be given tomorrow by those who were supposed to protect this mayor and who are exactly the same ones who condemned Donald Trump. Because he's going after the speedboats of organized crime that took this mayor's life.
We'll see what Mexico's government says. By the time I'm posting this video, Claudia Sheinbaum has probably already spoken. But I want to show you the following, because the issue with Carlos Manzo is no joke, since his popularity was growing very quickly. Carlos Manzo sweeps national approval with 72%. The Mexican Bukele, what started as a local movement in one of the regions most affected by crime in Mexico, it has become a national political phenomenon. Carlos Manzo, independent mayor of Uruapan, has reached a surprising 72% national approval rating among citizens. According to a study cited by security analyst Robert Bunker, with his characteristic hat, direct speech, and a zero-tolerance policy, Manzo has captured the country's attention. His administration focused on immediate action against crime and a direct narrative of justice has been key to his growing popularity. On social media, he is already nicknamed the Sheriff of Uruapan. Just imagine, that guy was already popular, he was becoming more famous, more well-known, and he was starting to become a rather uncomfortable figure for certain people in power in Mexico. That's the harsh reality, that's what was happening. That's why someone paid 100,000 Mexican pesos or $2,500 to criminals To get rid of him, $2,500, excuse me, but 50,000 pesos, $2,500 is nothing. Honestly, that's nothing. Is that what your life is worth? I say this because it cost one of those criminals his life. Let's remember there were 3 criminals. One was taken down, another is gone. That's the reality in Mexico. In a country like Mexico, there are people who, sadly, have been victims of crime. For just 50 pesos, that's $2.50. I mean, there are people who are no longer with us because they were robbed of 50 pesos. That's why I'm not surprised by the popularity that Carlos Manzo was starting to gain. Because honestly, the priority for a country like Mexico is insecurity. Even above the economic issue. The priority for Mexico, the number one issue that worries the vast majority of Mexicans is insecurity. Mexico is an extremely unsafe country. The fact that no Mexican politician acts against or fights organized crime makes me think. Honestly, I have my strong suspicions. And let's be honest, if in a country like Mexico you want to openly fight crime, you'll have the same fate as Carlos Manzo. That's what happened to the Mexican Bukele. It's that simple. That's the reality. Therefore, I have a question for you. If the vast majority of politicians who have tried to openly fight crime have unfortunately lost everything, why are there so many politicians in Mexico? So many who are making a fortune and living freely and who spend their time traveling and have a life of luxury. They even own several houses and properties. I'm asking you that question. It's a very simple question. You know the answer very well. All of us here know it perfectly. In Mexico, political candidates often face a choice from cartels, silver or lead. You decide, you choose. Either you're our accomplice or say goodbye to everything. It's simple and obvious. We all know that's what happens. That's why I'm convinced that the vast majority of politicians in Mexico, more than 90%, almost certainly are accomplices to what's happening. And that's why Nayib Bukele's phrase is more relevant than ever. A government that doesn't fight crime is because it's an accomplice. I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions on this. Rest in peace, Carlos Manzo. It really is a tragedy what happened to him, a tragedy what occurred, and it's very sad. But unfortunately, that's what happens to politicians who really try to fight the number one problem in Mexican society. Thank you, may he rest in peace. See you next time.